Hey guys, it's me again, Andrew Gabriel, and today I have a very special, video for you guys. Obviously, I'm using a different camera and all that, so I have a very special guest for you because I've never seen any interviews, at least not on YouTube, of any of the members of this band, but Mortem from Peru is a very special band that I would say is in the underground because they're basically Morbid Angel, kind of mixed with it with a bunch of it's basically like 80s style death metal, and I really like that. But here's so we're gonna do an interview, and here he is. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Adomicus or whatever whatnot. But here he is. Hello.
Hi, Andrew. Amduscias is how we pronounce it, although we're not really sure what it sounded like in the BC times, the BC days. But yeah, Amduscias
Yeah,
is
it's
what I go by.
yeah. It's again, I'm very bad with stage names. For the longest time, I didn't know how to pronounce Trey Asgoth's last name.
Oh, well, you know what? He told me once that he calls himself a Zagthoth, but everybody
Wow.
calls him Azagoth, and even the old song ancient ones when it was called Azagthoth, Mike Browning called it Azagoth. So
I guess it was easier to pronounce than
yeah,
the
yeah,
original pronunciation.
exactly. Yes.
So I have a couple of questions for you right here. I think
Uh-huh.
it's either 10 or well, it's either 10 or 12. I looked at that right now. It's 12 of them, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna probably go out of order with them. But I'm gonna start off and just say, how was the tape trading scene for you back in the day, and how did you find out about new bands then?
Oh, in the '80s in Peru, it was mostly through friends of friends who some of whom had either zines or projects of zines. So they wrote to bands, asked for material, and got stuff, and then tape trading started. But mostly due to those people. I remember, in particular, our provider of the cool underground stuff was a guy named Enrique Patiño, who's a tattoo guy now. He has his own tattoo shop, and he got all the cool stuff. You know, back in the day, Black Shepherd, Messiah, Casbah. What else? Pretty much all of the cool stuff. Even some of the major bands, or well, major bands now, but rising bands back in the day, demos of the forthcoming productions, for example, like Slayer and such. So yeah, it was through basically people that either had zines or projects of zines, and then they wrote to the bands and got their stuff, and then tape trading started.
Ah, and is the Casbah you mentioned the one from Japan, or is this another one?
Yes, but the Japanese one, yeah, Chain Gang,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I actually found out about that recently through I think his name is he was from like a bunch of bands back in the day from Ohio. I think his name is Dwayne Morris,
Okay, I think I've heard of him. I think I've heard of him.
and I think he either posted it on his page once or sent me a link to it because we don't talk regularly, but we talked pretty I would say a little less than often.
There you go. Yeah. Now that I recall, we also had so for example, one of the Mortem drummers, Hugo Calle, whose stage name was Satanar Cust. He did have correspondence with Trey Azagthoth, and he got some of rehearsals and stuff back in the day, which was really like cool. People were like, "Oh man, you got this cool stuff that nobody has." That was kind of the thing, you know. I got this that nobody else has. That was the first stage, right? Also, now that I'm going back, for example, I had a friend who had a catalog of European releases. So this guy was a new wave guy, Luciano, but he was getting the Cure, Kraftwerk, and all those things. But he showed me his list, and
Mm.
lo and behold, there was a Merciful Fate, Curse of the Pharaohs, Merciful Fate, From the Depths of Hell, Corpse Without Soul, and stuff like that. So we did order from that list. Bulldozer, The Day of Wrath. So I believe my brother and I were the first ones to have those vinyls, the ones I mentioned, Merciful Fate, Bulldozer, and such. So that was another venue, but of course these were signed bands, right? Not the demo bands like Deceased, Imperator, right? Those are the ones that we had through tape trading. But we also at some point had these European release lists that were not available to everybody. So it was kind of cult. Everything was kind of cultish. You wanted to have the new stuff, but you wanted it to stay kind of within a small group. So really underground, right? That was the spirit.
Yeah, and it almost like reminds me of like when I was like getting into this stuff. Obviously, I'm a lot younger than you, and I have a disadvantage of like actually like having zines and all that. But I also have the advantage of like going on. I'm not so sure what sorry, but I'm not so sure if you know what blog spots are, but
Block spots, yeah.
so
I'm old,
so
but
basically
not
I would
that
just
old.
but I would just basically scroll through them and just like find like whatever, and I found like bands like the Chasm, and I think another one was the Scourge from Mexico,
Yes.
and I was like,
Brutal man. This gorge, just extremely
yeah, I
savage.
was like, yeah, I was like really like, I think I was like 15 or like 16 when I like first saw those covers, and I'm just like, this is real shit. Like
Oh
these
man,
guys must be committed. Like
Mexico was just really advanced, man.
yeah, like
Cenotaph, the speed of Cenotaph when they got their first release out. Oh, I was like, oh man, they can't be Latin America. This is they
yeah.
were so
I
fast.
remember. I think I remember getting into like Cenotaph through a blog spot or like hearing about them being like oh this is Daniel Corchato's band before he formed the
Correct.
Chasm,
Yes.
and like and like back on that track a bit, like when I was like getting into these bands, and then I like started like to join like chat groups and all that, just kind of like whatever, and everyone like knows these bands now, and I'm just like I kind of feel like I'm not so sure what the word is, but like it's not like I feel like I'm less unique, but it doesn't really matter to me because you like what you like basically.
Exactly. But that was the spirit, like the uniqueness of having such and such band or knowing of the existence of such and such band. It was kind of the the trend back in the day. Of course, you did like it, right? There was no point in listening or owning something you didn't like. But yeah, that was now that I'm thinking of it, I'm remembering the excitement. Oh, I got this. The mail just arrived, and I got this new thing, and this and that. So it was really nice back in the day. I still remember having the news of Daniel Corchao playing bass for Incantation, for example. I still remember those days. That was the
Yeah.
90s.
And I'm not so sure what else I was gonna say, but I think I remember. I think I remember that. Like, I also remember like just going through like thanks lists or whatnot. Even like the albums I didn't own, I would just like look up on Discogs to see if there was a thanks list there. And
Yeah.
I remember the moment I was like, death metal's for real. I'm going to like get into this stuff now, and like, cause like, well, I have a video on my channel like discovering this, not discovering, but like discussing this.
Uh-huh.
But it's basically like I was listening to the album Exploiting Dysfunction by Cephalic Carnage. They're like a kind of like a tentacle grind band,
Yeah, yeah,
and
I know.
they have like a they have a hidden track on there. It's called Gracias, and I really liked it for the music. But then I was like looking up, lyrics to all of it because I was just like, I like looking up lyrics. And I was just interested. I was that like I guess I was that committed is the right word back in the day. Well, back in the day would be like 30 years ago. So like back in my day.
Uh-huh.
So, but I
Thanks
just
for.
remember.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, but I remember they were just like naming bands like in that song. Like that was just the entire song, naming bands, and there were like some really weird ones that like I did not know of because they weren't on Metal Archives then. Like there was this band that they named. It was called Spewgina, and then there was another one called Scum Bitch and Ass Cavern, and but they were like naming like bands that are pretty you know like well respected in the underground. I would say now, but
Uh-huh.
like Sadistic Intent was in there. Coffin Texts. I think another one I got into. That's actually probably how I got into the Chasm. But I was like, I like looked up like an album to download, and I found Death Call for Eternity on a blog spot, and they posted a lot of good stuff on there, and so I downloaded it, and that was basically like, wow, this is amazing.
Yes. Yes. Well, yeah, things are pretty different now. I mean, there's much more access to the past. Back in the day, you had to know somebody. You had to have the actual tape or vinyl. This is before CDs, right? To know the band, or you could ask your friend, "Hey, can you record this for me? Make me a copy of this record." And of course, you wanted the copy to be, good sounding. A lot of the the tapes that you got back in the day were like muddy and blurry, and then you had to if you didn't have your own stereo, you would have to go to a friend's. Hey, come here with me and let's record this, please. And my friend's plays, and to have a decent copy, stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, and
Now it's very different. It's much more accessible, and yes, and well, and also you had fanzines, right? The zines, even magazines, but fanzines were the ones that you would learn about. For example, our former bassist Juan Carlos Muro, he still has Testaments zine, and through Testament, the stuff that he got, I heard for the first time, Grand Belial's Key, Crucifier, Angel Corpse, the demo, right? Goats to Azazel, and stuff like that. But this was already in the 90s, mid 90s, I would say. But there were always resources for you to get stuff, right? It was always improving, and now I think right now it's right the best time to listen to anything. Sometimes I'm thinking about a band that I couldn't get a copy of, and then I just type it on YouTube, and there it is, and I'm like, oh man, this is cool. I'm listening to something that I hadn't listened for 30, 40 years.
yeah, there's also that, and there's like file sharing sites now. Like there's a back in the day there was like back in like the 2000s, like before I even was into like music, there was there's like LimeWire and I'm not sure what the other ones are. I do know a new one though. It's pretty popular amongst like younger kids. I think it's
Lime.
called Soulseek or whatever.
I, um, I don't know any of that. I guess I'm
But
really
yeah,
old school when it comes to that.
it's a really new thing, and basically it's like a file sharing site where you can like it's basically made for music. So
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check
yeah,
it out for
because like
sure.
I usually if I don't find anything on YouTube, I usually like do that. So, but I'm gonna go on to the next question and
Yes.
ask when did you take up drumming and when did guitar into your life?
So I started playing the drums, I would say in 1986, 1983. So we had different bands before Mortem, but just friends, the neighborhood friends, and it was already hard to get somebody that would play, right? So we had like really cheap instruments. The handmade drum set I had that was really really bad, and so the cymbals wouldn't sound like they were like it was really really bad. But so we had different bands, and but the main problem with those bands was that you know my brother and I wanted to play something heavy and fast, but the other members didn't like that. They were more into new wave. New wave was strong in Peru in the '80s, and either that or rock and roll, like traditional rock and roll. So it was we kind of split early on with different bands, right? But yeah, we kept playing. I've been playing since 1983. We had a couple of other projects, like metal projects, before we started Mortem. We had one called, if I'm not mistaken, Axus, which was a river mentioned in one of Edgar Allan Poe's tales. But of course, it was very rudimentary, right? The style that I played back in the day, and then it's evolved not to Pete Sandoval or Alex Marquez standard, right? Because those are just monsters. But yeah, and guitar. I've never really been a guitar guy. I played the bass for a while because we wanted to be like uh, Slayer. I wanted to be the Peruvian Tom Araya, but I really couldn't handle it. I was really dumb, and drums were my thing, right? Guitars, I just I collect them. I of course I can tune them, play some chords and little things here and there, and just go crazy with a whammy bar because that's an important part of our music. That noisy Slayerish, Morbid Angelish component of the solos, not just melody, but that insane um, whammy bar bashing and such. So I'm not really. I can't really play a Mortem song. I can play parts of some Mortem songs, but I wouldn't be able to do the. It's very advanced. The level of riffing that we have
Yeah.
achieved over the years, right?
Mm. Yeah, but I only ask because I see on your Facebook that you like show off some guitar demos and all that.
Yeah, tremolos. Yeah, whammy bar. that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's my passion. In general, it's the band's, as I said, an important component of the band's music. But I'll go crazy with that stuff. I just always, since when we were even before Mortem, when we listened to Ozzy live, Speak of the Devil, right? So you had Brad Gillis there, the the father of fluttering, the father of flutter, and he did all these things that because normally you can hear a lead guitar, yeah, it's cool, it's some are more advanced than others, but then he did these crazy things with the whammy bar, and we were like, we want this, we want to have this, but we didn't know what it was. We thought it was a pedal. Back in the day, we didn't know what it was. So as soon as we found out how to do it, it became an important part of our music writing and solo components. So that's why I demo those things for the couple of maniacs that I know like them, basically. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you mentioned Brad Gillis. I actually very recently I went into a thrift store, and it's a thrift store like around here. I like to visit sometimes because it has like some stuff that I do like. Like it's not like metal stuff, but like they have like a CD section, and they'll very rarely have metal. And I like find stuff like Peter Gabriel in there. I found an April Wine CD the other day, and I also got some stuff that's really not your thing, like 90s stuff. Like I found, funnily enough, I just found Third Eye Blind, and I was like, I don't really well, I do like them, but it's like I'm not like super big into them. But I was like, I might as well buy this because I like a few songs. But like I found Night Ranger, and Brad Gillis is in Night Ranger,
Of course.
and I listened to like the first song on the way back from my house, and it's literally not even like that far away from my house. It's like I would say it's like 5-7 minutes away. So
Uh-huh.
and like Don't Tell Me You Love Me, that I love that song a lot. It's a very catchy one.
Yeah, no, no, he's a great musician. He was an innovator, and now that I enjoy Night Ranger, I mean, it's basically I like the leads, right? That's pretty
Mm.
much with my experience with most virtuoso kind of uh, bands. I like the leads, or sometimes I enjoy the drumming, but the songs as a whole, they don't really speak to me, right? So I can listen. I can. The other day, not the other day, like 10 years ago, a friend of mine played some live Steve Vai to me, and I was like, I was bored, but then I heard the drummer. It was a monster. I was like, oh man, I wish I could do this. But the music itself doesn't really speak to me. But of course, I can acknowledge and every now and then enjoy the dexterity of the musicians, right?
Yeah, I have like some bands like that for me. I think like a lot of like the more brutal stuff, like the more guttural kind of like I wouldn't say suffocation because I like them, but like the stuff that was influenced by them is more like I appreciate the musicianship, but like as the songs as a whole, it's just like it's very in one ear and out the other.
Suffocation, you say?
Yeah, this the bands that influenced them, or not the bands that influenced the bands that came afterwards that were
Okay.
influenced by them.
Yes, yes, yes. Suffocation is a very complex band, right? Their
Yeah, they
composition
have
is really complex.
they have
Right.
a lot of great riffs, but like
Yes.
it's just, again like the stuff like afterwards, like some of it's not for me, but like I used to like listen to a lot back in the day, and like listening to it now, it's a bit like draining for me. Like
Yeah, there's a lot of riffs in one song. That's a fact.
yeah, and
That's a
like I
fact.
was sometimes I would just like re-listen to like songs. I even do this now, just like get it, try to get it. Like originally I didn't like. Originally I did not like the band DJ Flesh at first, and I was like, what am I missing here? Like everything's there, just that you know it was very monotonous to me at the time. But like I grew to like it, and
Mhm.
I do like that band. So
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's some bands and styles that appeal more to us than others, so we can't force ourselves to like everything, right?
yeah, but I think I just had too much like spare time on my hands. So that's why I would like re-listen to stuff back then. I keep saying back then, but I'm a
Yes.
young kid. I'll skip around a bit and ask another question. How did you first discover Slayer and Morbid Angel? Because this as well.
Yeah, Slayer. So we had a friend in our neighborhood. So first we were into, Iron Maiden, some Ozzy, some of that stuff. Of course, Black Sabbath. Now, not all Black Sabbath. I'm not going to lie and tell you that I like all Black Sabbath, right? I like
Mm.
the dark songs, the songs, with with occult or occultish topics. But we were into Iron Maiden, old Iron Maiden, and then our friend Carlos, who had his own supplier but he was not a supplier of demo stuff. He was a supplier of underground signed bands. So he brought the Show No Mercy record, right? And we were like, oh, wow, this is really different from. I mean, it's got some Iron Maiden, especially the song Cryonics, because to me, Cryonics was always uh, a sped up and more brutal Phantom of the Opera. It had that's those sequences to me at least. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is something new, right? And but then when Haunted the Chapel came out, and we got it through our friend, the same friend. That was what blew our minds. Like, what is this? Like chemical warfare, right? There was no melody. It was like, we're like, what is this? This is they had uh, tuned one step, a half step lower than Show No Mercy, so it sounded darker. There was less melody in the composition and the riffs and the solos too. So it was like, wow, those three songs were like, okay, this is what I want. My brother and I, this is what we want to play. Like, this is what we want to do, right? And then other bands started appearing that played similarly to Slayer. And Morbid Angel, the first Morbid Angel that we heard was, I think it was the Abominations of Desolation. Um,
Hmm.
and it was through it was a friend from college, another guy who did a lot of tape trading, who's in the band called INRI, INRI, Eric. So he was like, "Oh, you like Sacrifice, right? You like the Whammy Bar and Sacrifice? Yeah, yeah. Have you heard Morbid Angel?" I was like, "Not yet. I've seen them. I've heard a lot about them. I've seen the pictures of Trey, looking like a demon possessed, and some of the fanzines, but I haven't really heard of the band. Okay, so this is Morbid Angel. You're gonna like the Whammy Bar, and then I got We got Abominations, but we were like, what is this? This is insane. The the atmosphere and all that. Of course, it was not as polished as the later productions, right? But it was really, really intense. And then, of course, when Ultras and Madness came out, we liked it too because it was very 80ish, right? It was, of
Hmm.
course, faster, right? It had lost some of the heaviness because Pete Sandoval was more of a speed drummer, like a speed demon. But it was still 80s, pure 80s stuff and brutal. And the two lead guitarists, it was amazing. So yeah, I would say we got Morbid Angel in 86, maybe 87. That's when we first heard Morbid Angel. Slayer, of course, it was earlier when we
Hmm.
were still I was still in. My brother and I were still in high school. Morbid Angel, I was already in my first year of college, I believe.
Yeah, I heard like some people like say that Abominations of Desolation is their only good album. What do you think of that?
Excuse me. Their only good album. The demo, but I heard the demo afterward. And the demo came afterward, actually, or was it the Kingdom Come? Um, I, I don't know if it's so it's different, pre and post Pete Sandoval are two different bands, right? Because Pete Sandoval brought that speed, that the blast beats and the double bass drumming to a level that wasn't heard before. Yeah, Lombardo was brutal. Faster than Lombardo, we had Gene Hoglan, right? I mean, Darkness
Hmm.
Descends was just. I mean, even if you're an advanced drummer, to play the whole Darkness Descends today is not easy. I mean, it takes a lot of
Yeah.
practice. But Pete Sandoval was a game changer, so it was impressive to listen. For example, Immortal Rights, when it stars the triplets, right? And for how long he lasted playing the double bass drum was something that was unheard of. So I wouldn't say Abominations is the only good record. It to me is the darkest record, the one that captures the atmosphere that Hell Awaits had, that kind of rotten miasma filled
Hmm.
um, hellish or inferno that these records kind of convey to the listener, right? But I like, besides Abominations, I like Alger's Madness. I like Bless, Star the Sick. I like also Formulas, Fatal to the Flesh, and the other records, some songs here and there, but not nearly as much as I like, say, Abominations or Altars. Right? Those are my two favorites: Abominations and Altars.
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part. When I re-listened to like the Morbid Angel discography, I was like listening to like some of these like re-record songs they did, and I was just like, these seem off to me. Because I'll say this, I didn't hear Abominations originally, like when I was originally like getting into metal and death metal precisely, because I thought it was a compilation album at first, because I saw it on Spotify and it just like looked like a bunch of I obviously didn't like see the little hype sticker or like little thing there that like said this is their it's supposed to be their first album that they shelved it or whatever, and I just skipped it for whatever reason, and I went to Covenant and I liked it, but then I heard Angel of Disease and I was like, this sounds weird. It almost sounds like Motorhead to me. And then years later, I would listen to the Abominations version, and I was like, this is way better.
I agree. I agree that song in particular, "Angel of Disease." I think the Abominations version is 10 times better. It has, again, it's the atmosphere, but it's also Richard Brunelle. Richard Brunelle had this particular soloing technique, or some might say it was not a technique, but okay, a style that went, I would say, up to perhaps in Blessed Are the Sick. It was already kind of fading away, but at least in the Abominations and the Thy Kingdom Come and the rehearsals and the Morbid Angel live in Florida, he had it was like listening to Michael Denner, Merciful Fate's Michael Denner. He had
I do.
those kinds of thingies, but with the whammy bar added, the savagery of his whammy bar added, and he clearly used less distortion than Trey Azagthoth. Trey had his guitar was completely overdriven, like, but Brunella used less distortion. I'm not sure what kind of effect he used. Perhaps I don't know if of a mild wah or a phaser. There was something about his leads that reminded me of Michael Denner. But I think that made a difference. And that song in particular, in the song you just mentioned, "Angel of Disease," in the re-recording, it was only Trey soloing, so it was
Yeah.
just him taking up all the leads, taking over. And he was playing pentatonic stuff, like rock and roll stuff, and that people that know me sometimes hate me because I don't like rock and roll, and I don't like rock and roll. I mean, I can tell, of course, it's one or two songs of this and that. Yeah, they're cool, but it's not my thing. The pentatonic scale is not what I like. It's not what I'm into. It's too happy, and I don't like happy music. So Trey Azagthoth started doing those, playing those scales and that particular song, and I was like, nah, I'll take the old version over this one any day.
Yeah, that's what I noticed with like the re-recording is that the solo is different, and not in a good way. It's just like it feels so out of like what's the word, out of place, as opposed to like the original, like as you said, Richard Burnell solo, which he's just like doing dive bombs. He's like playing all over the fretboard. He's like strangling the strings.
Yes, yes,
It's really captivating
yes.
stuff. And when I like heard that again, like for the first time, because like I originally like when I was like going through like the Morbid Angel discography, I was like, I like all their albums, and I like kind of like was discussing talking about Morbid Angel with you, and the moment you pointed out the pentatonic soloing on like the B side of like Blessed Are the Sick and like the re-recordings of like Angel of Disease or whatnot. It ruined those records for me. I still like the A side of Blessed, and I still like the majority of songs on Covenant, but they're hard to listen to for me because of like how they like changed like so much.
Yes. Yeah, they changed a lot. And it also has to do with Trey's improvement because Trey was so his first I would say that uh, the first records, the first two up to Blessed Are the Sick, excuse me, he was more like chromatic and some pentatonic, but he was like he didn't really play on scales. But after that, he started using some more scales and lots of tapping. So he was claiming to be a fan of Eddie Van Halen's, right? So he was doing all the tapping, so that changed his style dramatically, and also his sound because he was his guitar sound, at least the lead guitar sound, was extremely distorted and overdriven, saturated. I believe the once Rick Ross, if I'm not mistaken, I might don't quote me on this, but Rick Ross, I think, told me that Trey used the DiMaggio X2N, which was Rick Ross's favorite pickup that he um, um, introduced Chuck Schuldiner, and then Chuck used it till he died. Right, it was a DiMaggio X2N, the double blade pickup, which is a really high output, DiMaggio's highest output pickup. So, but then from the third record, the Covenant on, he started using DiMaggio PAF Pro, which is a pickup that's more for rock. It doesn't have a lot of distortion. So he had to resort to those not the distortion pedals, but the how do you call these things? The processors. The processors. So the sound is much more. It's less raw, right? It changes a lot when he solos from the third from Covenant on, and he adds much more reverb and wah too. So I think there's a major change in the from Covenant on regarding the solos. Not just because Richard Brunelle was not there, but also because Trey changes his style and his sound.
Yeah, and the problem with like Morbid Angel, like the other Morbid Angel albums that are not Abominations and Altars, as well as like Formulas. Like I really like that record, and even like Half a Blessed or Sick. It's just that it's like either too clean or just like the songs in here are just not as good as like before, and largely is that due to like as you said, Trey changing his style.
Yeah, changing a style, and also I would say the pickup, changing the pickup. That was a dramatic shift, I would say. Although I think the Formulas has a little bit of that dirt in the sound, a little bit of that old tube amp sound more than the others, right? So it's not just as clean or plastic sounding. It's much more. I don't know how to say like juicy. So I like that sound compared to the previous ones. I think it is a good sound. He would have benefited from having another guitarist share the leads with him, but it was still a great album, right? Because that one and what's the number D? Domination, is that the name of the third record?
Yes,
Fourth
that
record?
one.
Okay, so those two, he doesn't have an extra guitarist. He doesn't have Eric Rutan, for example, right? So it was just him playing all the leads. So that makes it a little bit more monotonous to my ears. But I still think Formulas is the last great record. The other records have some good songs here and there, but Formulas was dark, really kind of mystical, and he plays especially the old songs, right? So I love that record. I love it.
I love it too, and the reason why I really like it is because I told you this as well. I think it's like a more modernized version of Abominations of Desolation, and I heard that like I was listening to it and I didn't know how to describe it, but like I heard that described as such by John McEntee of The Incantation.
Hmm.
I think he was like on the Rock Fantasy Files, which is like a local record store of mine, and he was on this like it was like a roulette of like rank these albums or whatever, and
Hmm.
like one of the albums was Formula Sales was Flesh, and I think he put like really really high up on his
Hmm.
list. Like I think it was like number one or something like that.
Wow. No, it's a great album. And I also think Gateways to Annihilation would have been a great album. The drum sound is too plastic on that one,
I
but
agree.
I think it has too many slow parts. I mean, it has great riffs actually. I think that one would be so. My first one would be Abominations, then Alice of Madness, Blessed and Fatal. They kind of, I don't know, depending on the day, I would choose one over the other one. But the next one would be to me Gateways. It has great riffs, but too many heavy doomy parts. And Trey also mentioned once that sometimes he forgot that Pete was human when he was writing those riffs, right? Because they're doomy, but the drums are not necessarily, like treble or I don't know, a top C. Everything was double bass drum, so dun, 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 it was like, oh my god. So, but I think there was it could have benefited from more faster riffs, in particular the riffs not riffs, rhythms, like the ones he had in Altars, right? Like Slayer kind of rhythms. I think that would have made that record memorable. I still like it, Gateways. I mean, it's not my fave, but I think it has really good riffs and it's dark. So, but yeah, it's there are things here and there that I would have changed. But then again, Trey has always said, I don't write music for the people. I write music for myself. So,
Yeah, you gotta
he's
respect that.
yeah. So he's dying with his boots on.
Yep. So I actually like Gateways less than like a couple other records by them.
Mhm.
Again, like as you said, the production is too plastic, especially the drums.
Mhm.
It just feels like some people really love the production on that record and they give me shit for it. But I really do like the ending song on there. God of I think it's called God of Emptiness. Not God of Emptiness, that's a Covenant. God of the Forsaken.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I do agree with the slow parts thing because it's like even when it tries to be fast, it just feels like incredibly like a drag to get through.
Yeah. Sometimes, yes. Yes.
And so like for me, of all the records I do like, it's Abominations first. Then I can interchange these are interchangeable, but like formulas and alters.
Hmm.
Then it's the Die King. Well, actually, I like the Die King Come demo better than alters, but then alters. Uh,
Oh, that
then
I'm not including in the ranking, but that was quite a demo. I think it was
it's one of the
fantastic.
best demo in my opinion ever.
Yes, and also the song, the title track, that Kingdom Come. I remember when it was featured in the Blessed are the Sick. Some people were complaining that it was too fast because originally it was And then in the regulars, so some diehard Morbid Angel fans were like, "No, this is too fast. This is not the way it used to be." So I remember that too, But yeah, I love that demo. I haven't put it in the ranking, but yeah, that's one of the best demos ever.
Yeah, but I think like those are my like rankings. So like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
again, like altars first, for not altars, abominations first, altars and formulas are basically the same like spot,
Mm-hmm.
and then that can come demo, and then like the blessed A side. So
Yeah, that's a great Rebel Lands. That's a great song.
I love that song a lot, and I
Sweet.
even like the I wish when he included like the doomy parts on like gateways or even like some of his like other records like dominations. And full disclosure, I do not like domination at all. I like one song off of it, and it's actually dominate, and like the rest is just like downhill from there. But like I think it would benefit like the gateways a lot if he wrote more slow parts like the child track on Blessed Are the Sick. I think that that's like really like innovative stuff. Like he
It
was
was. It was.
an innovator. But some people like everything by them. Well, except like I've never met anyone who was like I love Elude or whatever. They're like some I've met some people who are like or talked to them rather because I never met them in person. But you know they just say like it's like okay, and
I think that
I can
it has 3 or 4 death metal songs. Blades to Baal.
I haven't listened to it in full disclosure.
Was that?
I haven't listened to it in full disclosure.
I did once, once, but it has 3 or 4 death metal songs, which are not bad at all. I mean, they're no altars or abominations, but they're really good. But then the techno stuff, yeah, that was I couldn't stand it. But I read in a guitar player interview, Trey taking responsibility. He was like, "No, Morbid Angel is not just a death metal band. We're an extreme band, but in different senses. So not just death metal." So he was defending that production, that outcome. And if people think that the word just death metal, they're wrong. I listen to all sorts of music. Okay, so but then the record after that one was death metal, right?
Yeah, and I don't like that record either. I think it's basically it's boring.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's
There are no
like they were trying to
highlights.
like it's like they were trying to like be like gateways again. I'm just like this more of this really.
Who knows? Trey again. Trey, I think his mind is. We can't really read him that easily, but he plays what he wants to play, and
Hmm.
I don't think he really follows trends. I might be mistaken. I mean, I've talked to him a couple of times. I don't think he even remembers me, but I think he has a mind of his own, and whatever he wants to play, he plays. And even there was a in the last tour. Remember that tour when he fainted?
Hmm. Yeah.
There's I'm not sure if it's that particular show, but it was one show on that tour that he goes and he tells people, that the next song is such and such, and if you don't like it, f you, because I write music for myself or something like that. So he was very, very adamant and repeating that he plays for himself. He plays what he wants to play. He doesn't play to please the audience or what have you.
Yeah. A couple more things I'll say before we get on to the next question is that the thing with Elude is that like I remember, well, I don't remember, literally just happened like recently, but like people have told me that like David Vincent had something to do with it because he was in that industrial band with his girlfriend or whatever.
Jenny Torturous. Jenny
I
Torturous.
don't. Oh, I didn't even know what her name was.
Jenny Torturous. Yeah.
Or is that the band name?
That was the band name.
Oh, I thought it was like
The band his wife, David's wife was Jen. I I think she was Jen, and the band was called Jen and Torturers, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then Trey Asgoff, he is. I'm not gonna call him weird, but he definitely has this mind of his own. Like he
Yes.
has said before that well, he hasn't said. It's actually like when he got a DUI as like a couple of years ago or whatever. It said on his like report that he was autistic, and that makes a lot of sense to me because as someone who is autistic himself, he definitely has like a lot of those stims and like
Hmm.
he definitely like has a lot of those behavioral like cues and whatnot.
I think he had he was diagnosed with Asperger's.
Hmm.
That's I think that was what came out from that arrest. But yeah, but he has his own like world of lava, right? The highest triumvirate, right? So he has his own world that where he draws influences from. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any other death metal guitarist like Trey as Zagthoth. He's
Yeah, it's very hard to like replicate him, and
yes.
people have tried so, but I don't think they're as great. And like the thing with the autism Asperger's thing, like I'm not sure when he was diagnosed for it, but like people say that like Asperger's is like an outdated term, and you know I don't want to get into that part of it, but like people have stated that it is like people don't use it anymore. It's
Oh,
just
okay,
like basically
okay,
just it's just
got it.
basically autism.
Okay, I see. I didn't know that. I
Ah,
didn't know.
that's okay. Uh, and I'm gonna like skip around a bit, like try to find a thing. How much do you contribute to the songwriting credits in Mortem?
Uh, I would say I would like to say 50-50, but I would say it's more like 40 on my end. And so musically, it's mostly Nevidos, right? From Nevidos, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
I would say up to 80% musically. I contribute with some riffs here and there. A couple of songs were pretty much full contributions of mine. Let me see which ones I can recall. Um, Deviled, I think the song Deviled from the third record. It was mostly my riffs. Then the song Within the Woods in the last record, it was mostly my riffs. Blackest Funeral, I would say at least 80% of the riffs are mine. So, but most songs he composed on by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And lyrically, I would say I write 60% and he writes 40 or something like that. He still has a little bit of percentage over me, right? He's the main again songwriter, and he contributes a lot to the lyrics too. And we've had a couple of old members that helped. Pablo Rey helped with the riffs of Mutilation Rights, but it was his song. He brought that song to Mortem, but we changed it, dramatically. But it was his song, and then the song Superstition. We had some, which is the most melodic song we have, but it reflects the period because it was the contribution of our guitarist back in the day, Janio Cuadros. He was getting into the really technical stuff, right? And like the virtuoso stuff. So he was doing all the legato, all the sweep picking, the arpeggios, and all that stuff. So he contributed to that song, and it was more melodic than the rest of our productions. But again, mostly it's just my brother and me, and I would say it's like 60. If we combine music and lyrics, it's probably 60. I would give him 60 and 40 to me, something like that. But we
I like
always
it like
discuss. But we always discuss. It's not that we accept everything. We always discuss. We try for there not to be any fillers, or when we go to melodic, we we try to avoid that. Like for the songs that haven't been recorded yet, there were some parts that were a little bit too melodic. I mean, not Iron Maiden melodic, or Merciful Fate, but there were they were a little bit, you know, not as dark. So we are like, okay, no, we need to change this. This can't go. It was not bad. It was not like, no. I wouldn't say it was happy, or Metallica like any of that, but or groovy, none of that. But it was still kind of too melodic for the feeling that we tried to convey with the music, right? The atmosphere. So it was changed. So we do go back and forth with these things, and sometimes we cut parts. Oh, the song is too long, or these parts are not necessary, so we need to get rid of this and that. So it's rarely okay. Here's a song and take it as it is. Okay, no, it's not never like that. There's always a maturing period for the songs.
I see. So I'm most familiar with your first record.
Mm-hmm.
I don't exactly know the songs off the top of my head. It depends on like the day, because like I'm like that with bands. Like if you walk up to me and like ask me what's my favorite Slayer song, I would ask you, like I would like answer that right away, because that's the band I've spent like the majority of my time with, to be honest. And but with even like underground bands that I like I can name you like songs by them, but like I can't like exactly name you a whole album, like no Mortem from Peru, obviously. For the longest time, I really had like time struggling like figuring out the names of Sadistic Intent songs. And then there was like I think I never struggled with Nunstar songs, because again, that's another band I like spent the majority of my time with, as well as like the Deceased and all that. But it's like with more obscure underground bands, it's less that that I don't like have the time to recognize them. It's just that like it's like a brain thing almost.
Well, I have a hard
like,
time. Yeah, go ahead.
I have like too much like knowledge in my head to like really think about it, and like just because like life kicks in and all that, you go through events, and that happens, and then like I feel like all of that's like replaced with like the knowledge that you had in your head. Like if you were to ask me like when I was like 17 or like 18, what was my favorite like I'll just say like Dying Fetus song, I would probably like answer it right away, but it's like I have trouble like answering that now, because like there's much less albums I like by them now than like bands I like more now, like again, Nunslaughter, Intent, Peru, even not Peru, Mortem from Peru. But
Yeah, I can't blame you. I myself, if I remember names and lyrics, I mean title tracks and lyrics, it's mostly from the 80s. I as much as I like, for example, Formula's Fatal to the Flesh, I can't recall the names, the title tracks. Of course, the first records, yes, I can name you all the songs, and I can probably play all the songs too, play with drums. But the more music you listen to, the more titles that you've stored in your brain, then you don't have a lot of storage left for other names. So I got pretty much all of Suffocation's discography, but I can't remember the last 5-6 records. I can't remember the names, the title tracks. Deicide was one of my favorite bands, especially with the brothers. But the songs that I know by heart are mostly the first and second records songs. Right? Slayer, I know, of course, Up to Hell Awaits. I mean, Rain and Blood, everything. Then South of Heaven, I kind of got back into in the 2000s because it was a forbidden record for me. Like, no, disappointing, so disappointing. But then, one day I went to Dark Realm Records, and the Sadistic Intent guys were there, and they had Seasons in South. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna buy them, and I bought them, and I started listening to them. Not as often, but I can name more songs than I would have had I gone there that particular night to the Sadistic Intent domains. But after that, you asked me for I know one song called there was a new metal song called Bloodline. There was a song called Ditto Head. That's it. I don't know much. I don't know any. Oh, Divine Intervention, perhaps one song, and I don't know anything else. I can't name a single song title from Slayer. Now, same thing with Merciful Fate. Yeah, of course, the first record is Corpse Without Soul, all that. But maybe even up to In the Shadows. That's the name, In the Shadows, or The Shadows.
Into the Shadows.
Yeah, that one, right? So I know some songs from that one. After that, I can't name anything.
No, I absolutely agree.
Was that?
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Because they're like albums or bands rather.
Yes,
I know like certain like song titles too, like up to a certain point, but it's like
yes.
With Immolation, I could probably like name you like at least 2 or 3 songs of every album up to Unholy Cult.
Mm-hmm.
But like after that, it gets troubling.
Well, that's one of the most consistent bands ever to exist. You listen to one song, it's Immolation. There's no way you can say, oh, what band is this? No, it's Immolation. That's amazing how they've maintained their own style for so long.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, here's Rotrevor clone number 325 or whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, Immolation, again, they're like go way back then. Like they're originally called Rigor Mortis.
Yeah.
And they like had like a couple of demos then. And then they changed their name to Immolation because, of course, the Texas Rigor Mortis and all that. And my favorite stuff by them is actually Dawn.
Was that?
Probably my favorite stuff by them is probably Dawn.
Like Dawn Possession?
Then probably like it's either then like Here and After, and then
Here and After is a masterpiece too.
It is. Originally I was like gonna go with like my original ranking, but like it changes all the time, like with everything with me, because like I listen to so much music that it basically I change my opinions all the time.
Yes.
That and I'm like still young, so like my opinions are still like developing.
When we played with Immolation in 1994, I think they had finished the recording of Here and After, but it wasn't out yet. So they played a couple of songs from that record live. So we're like, wow, this is amazing. And Craig Smilowski, the drummer, was a monster. I mean, he hit so hard that we had to change the snare drums twice. He destroyed the snare drums. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that about him.
Yeah, no, he played like he hated the drums. He was amazing, and he played very different from most death metal drummers. Of course, he used a double bass drum and all that, but it was a completely different style. His fills were also different. Typically a death metal drummer goes like triplets, right? But he would do different combinations. It was really amazing.
So it was like different note patterns.
No, he had his own pattern. Yeah, his own patterns. It was very patterned, but his own patterns. He had his own way of playing. That to this day, I don't think there are many drummers who play that way. Not trying to say that Michael Hernandez, that's right. That's the guy who played after him, the Chilean guy, or Mr. Shalatai. Not trying to say that they are not good, but what I'm saying is that Craig had a style that I had never heard before. I don't think I've ever heard it afterward. It's his own style of playing death
Mm.
metal. All right.
Yeah,
Great man.
a lot of people say that Alex Hernandez is their best drummer.
Alex Hernandez, yeah, Chilean guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love him, but like the drummer that made me fall in love, well, that it's not the reason I fell in love with Immolation, but like the records that I fell in love with Immolation with, he plays on them.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex, not Alex, Craig.
Okay, Craig, yeah.
Yeah,
Alex
I
was
think I'm.
the Alex brought blast beats to Immolation, which they hadn't had before. So
Yeah,
that was one of Alex's contributions.
I actually did not notice that with Immolation music. I would notice the drums, but like they were just so intense that like you couldn't like really even follow them along. But like they were like coherent at the same time.
Yeah. No, definitely. Dark, as always, heavy but fast, and it's really Immolation. That's they have a trademark in their music, and it's I don't know if there are any other bands that you can just by listening to any song you can tell what band they are. But these guys, they do it.
Yeah, exactly. And with Immolation, they just wanted to be so unique that like Dawn of Possession wasn't recorded at like the typical death metal studios. It was recorded at I forgot the name of the studio, but it was like recorded at a studio where both Sodom and Crater and a lot of like other German thrash bands recorded at. So that's
Mm.
why it sounds so dark and unique.
And Rob Vina. So when they played with us in Peru, he was he had ordered he had placed an order for BC Rich to build him a guitar that he plays afterward, a Black Mockingbird,
Mm.
right? But he had a Jackson soloist that he was playing there, and we were talking about stuff, and then he says, the guitar that I used for Dawn of Possession was a Stratocaster, and all of us are what? Believe it or not. But how can you get such a heavy sound from a Stratocaster? Like, I don't know, man, with the amps and stuff, but it is a Fender Stratocaster. Can you believe
I did
that?
not know that.
Yeah. I don't think many people know, but he was like, yeah. I don't know why he had to use it. Perhaps that's the guitar that he had back in the day. But it sounds pretty good for a Stratocaster single coils, right? Which are not supposed to are not meant to hold those that kind of distortion, right?
Mm.
Especially with the low tuning of Immolation. Or perhaps it helped because the lower the tuning, the tighter the pickup sound has to be. So perhaps that's why it sounded good. Because if you put a really I don't know, Seymour Duncan blackouts, and you go, I don't know what do they play? What do they tune to? B,
They're trying to see.
C. So then it's all muddy. And you know who was talking to me about this? Ernesto Bueno. So that's a intense guitarist. So he was telling me
Wow.
that he got Rick, Rick Cortez to use the Seymour Duncan Blackouts #3 because those were pickups made specifically for low tuning. So they're tight. If you use a loose pickup, then it will sound, especially that kind of low low tuning. So the Seymour Duncan HB3, which is no longer in production, that one is really tighter than the EMG 81, which was Rick's choice before this. But yeah, if you tune low, you can't just use any pickup. You have to use pickups that kind of tighten the sound, right, or dry up the sound. Otherwise, it's going to be really mushy.
Mm. Yeah, that again, that's something I didn't know. And I play guitar. I wasn't like really into like the technical aspects of it until like again I started talking to you,
Hmm.
Well, I wasn't into the technical aspects of it like until like I've heard like stuff even before then because I was into effects because of like some like I would say indie records because there
The,
was like what was that?
no, I'm sorry. I didn't get what you were saying. You said
I said
effects?
yeah effects, and I got interested in them for like indie stuff, kind of like Sonic Youth, and then maybe I think a big one for me was like My Bloody Valentine, which I actually think that it's a very unique record. It's not your thing, obviously, but
Mhm.
it's like that's how I first heard of like the flanger effect.
Well,
Where
Azagthoth uses that a lot of flanger in the first record.
uh well the way they use it is very different.
Hmm.
And I'll skip to another question for a bit.
Yes.
Well, a lot of this like what we're talking about leads up to our next question, and it's basically what are your thoughts on the metal community at large today?
What do I think about the metal community?
Yes.
Well, it's huge compared to what it was back in the day, right?
Mm.
It's everywhere in the world. Back in the day,
Yeah.
people. If you read the zines, people were like, "Oh, this is a metal band from Singapore, or this is a metal band from Thailand," and now you have metal bands everywhere. It's amazing, you know. It's a the metal community is something I think unparalleled because you got people who listen to rock and roll. You got your groups that worship Elvis and the Beatles, right? Perhaps the Rolling Stones, and you got your people who like the Doors, and they. But yeah, those are bands, right? Yeah, you can say that that's a general style rock and roll. But when it comes to metal, it is something different. It's universal. It's unique. It's and you talk to somebody and you got a couple of exchanges and then you're, hey brother, you're brothers, you're middle brothers. That's something that I think is unheard of. I got lots of new wave friends because I told you in Peru, new wave was strong, and my neighbors were into that. There was even a group called Level 14, Nivel 14, and you had all the punks and new wave kids get together and go to parties and drink and and destroy things here and there. But it's gone. They don't follow. They don't do the follow ups. There's not a community of those guys talking about you know that kind of music as opposed to metal. You still have people talking about Merciful Fate, people talking about the newer bands, right? Skeletal Remains. So it's metal is something unique, I think, and it's grown exponentially, and I would have never thought it would be like this. That you had fests where you have so many people. Back in the day, people were talking about people never ceased to talk about Woodstock, but then you see
Mm.
these metal these fests, and it's like, oh man. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised. And back in the day, our idea was like, no, metal has to be for a chosen few, but
Mm.
it's not, right. Metal ultimately became a way of life for so many people, and of course, you had the ones that abandoned at some point, right? They grew up, okay, now I have to work, now I have to have a family, and then I'm not gonna be listening to this music, this devilish music or noise or whatever. So they kind of, you know, grew out of it. But there's a substantial and numerous group of people who are, still living it up, still living still living for and by metal, and some of them are in the 60s.
Mm.
So it's really interesting. I find it fascinating.
Yeah. And I think it's like very good for like the community as a whole that like new people are getting into it, especially like younger people. Like I
Yeah.
remember when I was like getting into like metal music. It was a very slow process, but at the same time, like I didn't like get into any communities then. Like the more I get into like communities and all that, there's a lot of like elitism, I would say, like, and even like the older guys can get like a bit like hot headed with it, and like I even like have like that mentality a little bit, like kind of like going through like my underground phase, which I still listen to underground music, obviously, but when I was like getting into the underground, like I had that phase where I was like, oh man, people should listen to this and not that. Like, it's almost like, it's almost like you have like this mentality that's like people should be like you and not like themselves. And I think like with a lot of the new bands coming out, even like some of the more mainstream ones, which, again, aren't my thing for the most part, like a lot of these gent groups, which, I didn't even know until like, well, I knew where it was, but like I didn't even know like people liked it. I thought it was like some kind of joke at first. But and all these like, metalcore, new metal, hardcore stuff. It's very, very accessible,
Yeah.
but not in a bad way. It's gonna get newer people into like this kind of music. Like I remember like I had a I wouldn't say brief, but like I would say I like have a 5 year like new metal phase where it was like I was around the age of 12, which is where around the age I got into like Metallica and all that. And my grandma's house I went to often, and I went into the basement because like there's like a lot of stuff there that she'll like keep, stuff that like wasn't used anymore, like whatnot. And then there was this box of cassettes in there, and it was mainly stuff that my grandma listened to, which was Elton John and like the Beach Boys and all that. But like there was also like stuff that like my aunts and uncle listened to. So like there was like Corn, Slipknot, and even Limp Bizkit in there, and I was like, I want to check these out. But my mom was like, she was very strict about what I should listen to. She didn't want me to listen to like anything with swearing in it. But that was weird because like at that time I was like listening to Nirvana, and they swear sometimes, but it wasn't obviously not to the extent of like Limp Bizkit and all that. But like I she was like if you want something that's like you know not necessarily like heavy, but something that like is like almost like rock, even like kind of like on the mellowish side. She said listen to Def Leppard because there was a Def Leppard cassette in there as well, and it was the Hysteria album, and I was like, this sucks. What is this? And then I just like went behind her back and just like listened to like all those bands that I like found in the thing, and then I just kind of like had that phase for like a while where I was just like listening to like Cold Chamber, like Disturbed and all that. But then like just like as I grew up and found more bands, I was just like, I just don't have the need for this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely go through phases, and at some point we find what we really like.
Mm.
So for me, for example, I have these jokes with my friends. Sometimes I take it too seriously, but they know I don't like rock and roll as a genre. And people are telling me, but metal is rock. Metal comes from rock. Okay, you can have that discussion ad infinitum. But for example, with before metal, right? When I was a kid, yeah, I remember my father was listening to Leonard Skinner. He also listened to Black Sabbath, the Paranoid. But it's not that he liked all of it. He liked basically some songs. And but then my cousins listened to Kiss, and I got into Kiss also a little bit. But what I could tell from all those bands, there was ACDC, which I never really liked.
Mm.
But what I could tell was that most of those records, at least the ones that I listened to, they had two or three songs that were kind of cool, but the
Mm.
rest was just, to me, they were fillers. So it was
Mm.
like, okay, yeah, this song is cool. Even with Black Sabbath, okay, yeah, the first record probably, yeah, good all in all, or every song, but for the most part, there were like just two or three songs that I could listen to, and then the rest was like no. But that changed with Iron Maiden. To me, with Iron Maiden, maybe not the first record because just they had "I'm Running Free." Yeah, right? You had also the "Shout out the Holla, jump in your bed, shout out the Holla." So you had that, but from Killers on, it was like all songs are good. All songs are killers. you know, like every song is good, and of course, then you had Omen, Face Warning, Manila Road. Well, Manila Road was probably older. We had all these bands that got signed, and there were no fillers. Slayer, like all the songs are good. So for me, that was the greatest difference between metal and rock. There are many other differences I can point out, but the stuff that I listened to, the rock that I could listen to at some point, it was never satisfying. It was just like one or two things that you can dig. That's it. Whereas in metal, you had full albums that were good. That was for me the greatest difference. Of course, another big um, factor that made me a metalhead was the lyrics, right? Because I
Mm.
liked Black Sabbath, the songs, in particular Iron Man, right? Okay, I know it's a very kind of well known song. My father was always whistling that song um, when we were living in Illinois in the '70s. So yeah, the lyrics were yeah, these lyrics are cool, right? And then you had well, Leonard Skinner, Free Word was cool, but the lyrics were not, dark or anything. But then, there was Iron Maiden, Phantom of the Opera. Okay, Phantom of the okay. This is interesting, right? Of course, Black Sabbath had the song Black Sabbath, NIB. That was amazing. But I think there was a gap in general in music up to Iron Maiden. When Iron Maiden started playing those darkish topics, even the song "Killers," which is not diabolical or anything, but it was a killer, or "Murders in the Rue Morgue," which is like it's like it's Edgar Allan Poe's title, but it's kind of a mockery of Edgar Allan Poe's novel, in which
Mm.
this ape slaughters two women, escapes the zoo and slaughters two women in a place in a rue, right, a morgue, the street called Morgue, and Iron Man kind of plays a little bit with that. My doctor said something on before, so it's like a crazy guy who's killing, but it was still I like that, it was this dark side of excuse me of the lyrics that I enjoyed, and then well, you had Merciful Fate, right? Merciful Fate, and that was there was no more, oh, play the record backwards, and you're gonna get this "Turn Me On, Dead Man, Turn Me On, Dead Man," or oh, this is Satan, he will give you the 666. None of that. It was playing for you. I deny Jesus Christ, the deceiver, and all these things, right? Or um, the corpse without soul, stuff like that. Satan's fall, right? And all the names of the devils, right? That Kid Diamond mentions in the Oath, right?
My favorite Merciful Fate song.
Yeah, well, Beelzebub, Belial, Astaroth, and all those. So I was like, wow, man, these lyrics. Well, and then Slayer with all the stuff that Satana sips upon the blood in which he feeds. I was like, oh man, it was horror. Like perhaps it was more than horror. Perhaps it was devil invocation kind of um, in a fun way because we know that that's none of them are really um, devil worshippers. And if you want to go philosophically, you know that devil is a Greek word that means just slanderer. Satan is a Semitic word that means just rival, right?
Hmm.
Lucifer means bearer of light, and it was the name the Romans gave to planet Venus. So all the stuff that we have been told and scared with is really not what it used to be. It was just made up in the Middle Ages to scare people and to coerce them into Christianity. But I like that, these this mythological, if you want, part of the lyrics of metal. So that was important for me, for my brother too. So that's why we have always kept that kind of lyrics, those kinds of lyrics. We've never moved onto talking about war or like creator extreme aggression. No, we're still talking or Slayer, and they were talking about I don't know, Ditto Head or Expendable Youth, right? Or Silent Scream. No, we have never diverged from our aim. Our aim was always on this kind of occult, dark. You can laugh at it. Some people can laugh at it, and yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna get mad if they laugh at me because it is some sort of morbid poetry, morbid fantasy. That's really what it is, right? If you take the philosophy of it, if you delve deep into history about so-called Satanism, about the demons and so on, you will find that they were pretty much just, as I mentioned, a couple of other terms, but most of the ones that you see like Baal, Belial, Baal Zabuth, Lilith, Asmodeus or Asmodeus. They were just deities, most of them Semitic deities, right?
Hmm.
They were not necessarily monsters, but then the church painted them as the bad guys, monsters that will possess you and what have you. So in order to have a good guy, you had to have the bad guy, right? So you had to have the angels and their leader, and then you had to have the devil and his minions. So, but still, I like it.
Hmm.
I mean, I know it's more of a mythological or a fantastic kind of stance, but I like it. I love it. I mean, I like horror movies. I like horror novels. I like to read about medieval. How do you call this? Medieval ideologies and demonology. I like that stuff too, right? So that's what I like, and that's those are the topics that we deal with in Mortem, and that's one of the reasons that I got into metal, because that was only in metal, right? I
Hmm.
don't think that new wave or rock and roll took those topics seriously, or yeah, every now and then the Rolling Stones had that song right about the devil. I forgot which one it was.
Sympathy for the devil.
Sympathy for the devil, right? And yeah, but in metal it was like persistent, consistent, right? Deicide, for example, and stuff like that, right? So that's one of the reasons that I got into metal, right? Many bands, of course, abandoned ship, right? And then they changed the topics, and some of them still made great music. And okay, I'm going to listen to them because the music is good. But of course, the topics that I loved were those Down They Sleep, Crypts of Eternity, you know, In League with Satan, The Oath, Melissa the Witch, right?
Yeah.
Triumph of Death, right? So yeah, that's blasphemer. those kinds of topics. I think they were a landmark of metal, and that's one of the reasons that really pulled me towards metal.
Yeah. And for lyrics, I don't really pay attention to them unless of course, it's a band I really do want to learn how to what they're trying to say.
Hmm.
And obviously, sometimes I'll just open lyrics books to some of my CDs, follow along with what they were saying or whatnot, and usually it enhances the music.
Yes.
And with a lot of like stuff again, like what you mentioned earlier, like separate songs but not like good bands. I feel like I have like feelings about that with like bands I like back then, like before like I would say that this is the run of time I got into Metallica and I was like really all about them. But again, I was also about Nirvana and Green Day, and I still love Nirvana. But Green Day, that's a different story because it's like I remember the American Idiot album that was played all over like radio stations, like even like before I was even like in the music, and I listened to the full album like not recently, but like in the past couple of years, and I was just like, this is not like a consistent album. It's just like you know here are the singles, and here are just like a few like okayest tunes.
Yeah.
And with the when I got into like full albums, that was like when I got like my iPod Touch, where I could like store more music on it. Because I had iPod Soft Shuffle back then, and that was pretty painful because I would like only listen to like separate songs by like like a couple bands I would say, but then obviously I was like getting into like all this extreme music. Like the first extreme band I ever heard was Pig Destroyer, and then I found death metal like very shortly after. I think I found death metal like in the same day. Like I found Morbid Angel, Obituary. Think I think Symphonies of Sickness was another one. I didn't get into Reek because I just thought you know I thought it would be like a lesser Symphonies at the time, which you know obviously I don't think that now, but again, like as I go on with like my musical journey, again I have a video about this on my channel. I remember like once I got my iPod Touch, I was like I could like store my more music, and like I would like look up bands like Nile, Exhumed, Cryptopsy was another one, and then of course the Phallic Carnage, which is like the final like nail in the coffin of like me getting into like extreme metal full on, and again there's like after a while I would say I got quote unquote bored with it. Like just like the last 2 years ago, I was like, man, a lot of these newer death metal bands that I like really just want to like, they're not doing it for me. Like, and of course, like there are new bands that I love, like Ascended Dead, and another one would be like, I know it's like a generic choice as well, but like I really like Blood Incantation as well. But then I just was like, I was just like going through like songs, like see which ones I would like
Mm-hmm.
connect with. And I think the journey of like me like going full on like non-metal, because I liked stuff that wasn't metal, like of course like a few years ago, but like it wasn't as like many of them as like now. Like I found I think I listened to like two songs by The Cure because like the hardcore band Sheer Terror sung like a cover of Boys Don't Cry, and I was really into that one, and of course just like Heaven, and I was like, let me just go through this discography, which I went through like some of their albums, like their most popular ones. Like I obviously hadn't heard every Cure album yet, but that was like when this is actually like pretty good, and this is around the time I was like getting more into more indie music as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, yeah, this is like the actual like I just don't have to listen to metal. I can listen to like whatever I want. Like I felt pigeonholed into like this one thing for like the longest time, but now it's obviously it's all. I'm a bit more varied in my taste, I would say, than I was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I think that happens to a lot of people. I mean, don't get me wrong. I listen to classical music too, um, classical baroque. I even like more contemporary composers like um, man, um, the name I just lost the name. Um,
Mm.
the Conan the Barbarian composer, the Greek name. What's this? Vasily? No, man, my friend Godwin is gonna kill me because I forgot his name and he met him. But yeah, so of course I listen to Bach, Mozart, Korsakov, um, you know, Paganini. Yeah, I do listen to that. Even classical guitar, like Joaquin Rodrigo from Spain and what have you. But that's it's different because that's kind of it's kind of set in stone, right? You got the greats, and then they ceased to exist long time ago, as opposed to metal, where you have a cumulative kind of process. There are more and more bands, and sometimes you miss out on really good bands because you don't have the time or for any other reason, right? But yeah, I guess a lot of people listen to other styles, not even genres, other types of music, and I find I'm not the first one to say this. I've heard other people say it. That there's more um, compatibilities or more similarities between metal and classical music than uh, with rock, for example. Right, classical music has the scales, the diminished scales, the minor scales, and all that, which rock and roll, for the most part, lacks. It's mostly pentatonic, and metal is more, incorporates diminished scales and minor scales and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it can't hurt to listen to other music, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mainly listen to metal, but like sometimes I'm just like I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, like just like whatever, like even work could do that to you, and I just like want to like something that's like light, and it pleases me whenever I like listen to like something like The Mission or like even like the new age artist Vangelis.
Chariots of Fire.
Yeah, the Chariots of Fire guy,
Yeah,
and just like artists like that like you basically put them on and like they're just amazing. Like there's a good amount of like just like I would say songwriting that comes from them that I would like that I couldn't like really even like find with now when I'm like stressed or whatever. Like
yes, yes.
even like
Yeah.
even like more like intense like non-metal stuff. Like I have some CDs over here. I was planning on playing them later, like someday at least. Cause like I like to take my CDs out like whenever I'm like in the mood for them or whatever. And like I have like a huge backlog of stuff. Like not backlog, but that's like stuff I've heard already, but like it's like stuff that I want to listen to again.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the album series, I think it's I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think it's called Tosco by Happy Family.
Happy Family.
They're a Japanese band, and
Oh, okay.
they take from a lot of like the more intense metallic side of like King Crimson.
Well, Japanese musicians are phenomenal.
They are, and even with like metal, it's like this is amazing. Like the band Loudness, like Del Soldier, they have like so many great riffs and so many like great solos, and it's just like some of the best stuff I've ever
Akira
heard.
Takasaki, right? Akira
Oh,
Takasaki was the guitarist.
yeah,
Well, I mean, Sabbath is a great example, but there
yeah.
was
Sabbath,
yeah.
Sabbath is like Sabbath was one of the first like black metal artists I like heard like getting into the genre, and they're very thrashy, of course, but they also like have a lot of like experimentation within their riffs and all that.
Mhm. Yes.
Like you obviously have like stuff like Devil Bless You or whatever it's called, and the first, not the first album, the album afterwards, I think it's called Venom, and that's like some of the best black metal I ever heard.
Envenomed, you said?
Yeah, and Venom.
Hmm. I don't think I've heard that.
Oh, it's either Evoke or Venom. I always get too confused because like the first albums,
Hmm.
and with Sabbath, they have like a very very discography. Like obviously you go to an album like from the first two to all the way up to I'm not so sure what the album's called. It's like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't say it because like it's not coming to me. It's I think it's the ones from 1999, and basically it doesn't sound like any of their other stuff before. Like even like stuff like fetishism and all that. It's vastly different.
Hmm.
Whereas like other bands like in the black thrash genre, like Absu and Disaster, they're all very consistently thematic.
Yes, for sure. Those two, for sure. Yes.
And hold on, let me check this water. The thing with Absu is that you know, they're probably like the best black thrash band to me. And just like again, they like mix Slayer Hell Waste along with Bloodfire Death isms in there. There's also like some of the King Diamond vocals and all of that.
Yeah. Well,
And
the theatrics too, right?
yeah, the theatrics as well. And with them, you know, I don't like everything by them, but I do like a majority of their stuff. Like Barathrim, I feel like it's an album that's like the actual material on it's good, but I feel like there's too much like filler in there. Like there's like the interludes and all that.
Hmm.
Then you get to like some of the Tyrant, I think Tyrant or something like that. And it's like, wow, this is like this. They found their style. Like, everything from the the first track, Absu, as well as the Morbid Scream cover, you know, the Coming of War. And sometimes I actually think the cover on the album might be the best song on there because they made it their own to me. Like if someone says the Coming of War, I'm not like, oh, it's that Morbid Scream band like from Texas and all that. Well, absolutely from Texas as well, but you get what I mean. But it's like I know that song like because of them.
Hmm.
And then you obviously get to Third Storm, which Sword and Lever and all that. Then Terra, which Terra's like awesome. Like it's not my favorite album by them. It's like my third favorite, I would say. Son of the Tyrant is my favorite, but with Terra, it was like these drums are like just so incredibly like fast and all that. They're just like that dude Prescriptor. He can drum his ass off.
Well, he tried for Slayer, right?
He did, And
And he nailed the songs, but he played them faster.
yeah, I was gonna say that. Like Kerry King said, I think it was too fast for him,
Yeah,
and that's why
but
he didn't get the job. And then he like got
but
he
he
had
was he was amazing playing those songs.
yeah. There's like footage on YouTube even,
Yeah, yep,
and like
faster than Paul Bostaff.
yeah, Paul Bostaff. He was the one who like played on those later records, those awful records, which like God Hates Us All. You know,
Diabolos and Musica.
yeah, that's. I can't tell which one I hate more: God Hates Us All or Diabolos and Musica, because Diabolos sounds confused to me, and obviously there's like those like new metallisms in there. I hear a lot System of a Down in there, and like God Hates Us All is like more Slipknot-y, and I dislike Slipknot more than System of a Down, so I'll say that.
I don't remember. I don't think I've ever heard of System of a Down. Maybe once a friend posted on Facebook something, but I've never heard of them. Slipknot on Facebook only. When they went through the changes of the drummer, what was it? The drummer? I think the Sepultura drummer is playing with them, right?
I think so. I
Joel
haven't like kept up with that band in like 10 years.
Casagrande, right? The drummer Casagrande, Eloy Casagrande, Eloy Casagrande.
Again,
So he was
I have not kept up with that band in like forever. Like
okay.
ever since like got into like new metal,
Mhm.
like everything like afterwards, like like
Yeah.
5 years, I would say. It's like when I got into like all this like more underground, I would say committed stuff. It's like I really don't knew this.
Yeah, I only heard Slipknot. Apropos, the drummer of former drummer of Sepultura, Eloy Casagrande, joined them, and people were talking about how great a drummer he was. So I watched a video of him playing for Slipknot. Of course, it was a drum cam, so I couldn't hear the song really. I mean, some of the breakdowns, but the drummer was good. The drummer was amazing. The music, well, was I was like, okay, nothing that I would bother listening to.
Yeah.
But
The best thing I'll say about Slipknot now, like considering like all my fears I went through and all that, the best thing about them is their drumming. Like Joey Jordison, he was a fantastic drummer and all that. And even like the drummer after him is like, I haven't like pay attention to him like in a while, but it was like, you know, he's probably just as good. And I
mhm,
haven't like, and I don't know any of the drummers afterwards because like
yeah,
I haven't kept up with that band like probably ever since I got into metal,
mhm.
which is an exaggeration, but like I really just don't want anything like do with new metal like at all. But
Yeah. Oh yeah, but
other than that,
I got some friends that will say, "What are you talking about? Slipknot is metal. If it is not metal, what the hell is it?" But
yeah,
those are discussions that won't lead anywhere. But I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I will say that like it depends on the band with new metal because like you have some bands like Linkin Park and all that, like that's more like their early stuff's like more like rap rock in my opinion, and then you have like Slipknot, which they take from like a lot of like different stuff, like a lot of stuff. Like I remember like I was talking about this with my guitar teacher the other day, and he was like, we were talking about Slipknot just because like the name came up, and I was like, the reason why Corey Taylor is like even in the band at all is because like he actually tried to overdose once, and I think his grandma brought him home from the hospital, and he was just like on the couch like laying down, and like on the TV was like the MTV Awards, and on there was Faith No More playing, and he was like, that inspired him. Then you have like Mick Thomason or whatever his name is. Like you see him like, there's like footage online of like them unmasked, like doing sound checks and all that, and he like has like an immolation failures for God shirt song. And I'm just like, I kind of respect that, to be honest. Like
Well, at some point, Phil Anselmo joined Morbid Angel and played live some couple of songs. So, I mean,
yeah,
nothing really surprises me.
He was also the guitarist for Necrophagia.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
The
for
original,
like that second album, I forgot what it was called, but like it like sounded a
Goblins,
lot more.
Goblins Be Thine. That one, no.
Like it sounded a lot more sludgy and like less death metal to me. But like his screams on that are like awesome, Killjoys.
Yes, but the guitarist for Season of the Dead was Larry Madison. So I did have some correspondence with him through Facebook. I mean, we did have some chats. And he was playing. He knew Phil Anselmo, and he also knew Dimebag. He told me, so he was already moving on that musical direction, not the death metal or proto death metal or whatever you want to call the first Necrophagia album, right? He was already moving towards something more groovy or the like. But he was a great guitarist. I mean, the riffs of the first record are just amazing.
Yeah.
And and there's the intro that he takes from
is it Fantasia?
Was that?
Is it like from Fantasia or something like that?
But that's Mussorgsky. That's Mussorgsky Night on Bald Mountain. Right? That's Mussorgsky, right?
Mussorgsky. Yeah, I think what was the song called? It was called something like
Night on Bald Mountain.
No, it's like another Necrophagia song. It's definitely not Abomination.
I don't know, but
I think it's something like Reincarnation. Yeah, that's that thing.
Yeah, that's
yeah, I think the song that they played that on was called Reincarnated Something.
I think so, yes. I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. But my favorite Necrophagia song is Abomination because that's a song that that's a song that Incantation would cover a lot live.
Abomination, the last God sent. That's how it ends.
I'm gonna ask you 2 more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So is there any plans for any new material?
Yes, we got a number, at least 8 songs that we have been maturing. We've been working on. So hopefully this year. The problem is that we don't have a lot of time, and I live in Arizona. My brother lives in Georgia. The bassist lives in Lima, Peru. The guitarist lives in Rostock, Germany. So just to get together is an ordeal. Yeah, people say, yeah, but you got the internet. You can share files. It's not the same. It's really not the same. But hopefully we will now that we have our 40th anniversary in July. We're going to be 40 years old as a band. So hopefully we'll record something for the anniversary. Yeah, because it's been 10 years since our last record.
Yeah, and you're like been around since like 1986 or 1980, like something like that.
86 as Mortem, 86. Yes.
Yeah, yes. And like you had like a bunch of demos before, like Demon Tales or something like that.
Yeah, 4 demos before the Demon Tales.
Yeah, and this interview was pretty quick. You answered some more of my questions than usual, so we had to skip over some. But I will say this, and then you can like give your final comments. Why the switch from bass to drums?
Well, first I wanted to be like Tamaraya, Tomaraya, Tomasaraya, right? And so there was something that I forgot to mention when we started the band, when we started the interview, which was English. So, I was born in New York. So I went to kindergarten and first grade. So I'm a heritage speaker of English, if you wish, right? My brother also learned English, acquired English when he was 3 years old, and, and such. So for us, it was important that the vocalist would would speak in English that was not heavily Spanish accented. Like we didn't want something like this is the war, or this is the demon that we're in, something like, we didn't want anything like that, right? I have learned the ritual libation of the, we didn't want stuff like that. We wanted something more standard regarding English. So my brother was the guitarist, and I was the drummer. But and at the beginning, I played drums and was the vocalist too. And then I was like, no, you know what? I'm gonna since I'm gonna be the vocalist, I'd rather be the bassist and play the bass. Be a front man, like basically Tom Araya, right? Something like that. But I really suck at bass, and I was when composing, I was composing the drum parts. So at some point, I was like, let's not force this. I am a drummer, not the best by any stretch, or a really technical one, but I'm a drummer, so I'll stick to that. And I kept being the vocalist until the third demo, where we said, for the second demo we had kind of made a more melodic production, because our guitarist, who wasn't into, as I told you earlier, he wasn't too shredding. It wasn't called shredding back then. It was called virtuoso guitar playing. He was into that. He was playing in other bands. So, but he was a great guitarist. He still is. He's a session guitarist, perhaps the one of the most acclaimed ones in Lima, Peru, the circuit. So he's a kind of famous um, session guitarist. But back in the day, he was still a kid, but he was progressing amazingly, and so we wanted to keep him. So he was like, you know what? But I, I'm playing with other bands, so everybody tunes to E. So let's tune this. Let's go half step up. But we're E flat, we're Slayer. But no, I can't do that. So we went to E standard. So that affected the sound of the second record, the second demo. And he was also, but why do you have to bark like, I don't know, do the Slayer thing, more Slayer? I was like, oh man, but that's not the direction that we want to follow. But we kind of um, did what he wanted. We complied, right? We humored him because we wanted to keep him in the band. But he still left afterward. So when he was gone, excuse me, when he was gone, we were like, okay, now he's gone. And we had this second demo that was too melodic for our taste. The tuning was standard tuning, which we don't like. We've never liked. So we're gonna go back to the E flat, and you know what? Let's just do everything faster and more brutal. Now we don't have any restraints now. There's nobody telling us, sing this way, or let's not make. He didn't want blast beats, for example, right? And we're like, let's just go full savage with this. Let's just unleash the demons and see what happens. So that's how we compose the songs for the third demo, and those were extremely. I mean, not by today's standards, but for the '90s, this was 1992. It was way faster, double bass drum, the blast beat, and it's not that I had the technique. It was just like just do it as go macho man and do it, right? Now I I've learned post hoc techniques to endure, but I couldn't endure back in the day because it was just too much effort to play that fast. So I couldn't sing or growl anymore. So my brother took care of the vocals after that. Right, and he went through phases. The first phase was like being like too guttural, and then he's now more. He found his style more along the lines of Evil Chuck and Jeff Becerra, right? But so that was kind of the process of why I stopped playing bass, and I went to drums, and why I stopped being the vocalist and went and became just the drummer, right? So it was there were many factors, but we knew the person who would sing or growl had to be somebody who had spoken English in the United States. I mean, of course, England too, but that was the contact between Peru and England was much more sparse, right? So that's why our current bassist, Jose Gamura, who lived in Los Angeles, right, and when he was a kid, and he's a an interpreter, Spanish English interpreter. That's what he does for a living. When the period that I could not play the drums live and growl, he took over the vocals because he doesn't have the Spanish accent in his English. So that was important to us, that we were not growling or singing, quote unquote, with that typical Latin American English. That was something important to us. So these are all the factors that contributed to me going back to the drums and just ditching the vocals.
Yeah, and I try to play all instruments. Well, not all instruments, like the main ones, like guitar, bass. And I tried drumming once, but like I don't think that's in the books for me. Just because, like, I don't have like the ability to do like certain things, like on it. Like I've tried drums like once, and I was horrible at it. So,
Well,
but yeah,
we all have that stage, and there are many things that I still don't know how other drummers do. For example, the stuff that Alex Marquez, from originally from Malevolent Creation, Solstice, right, and other bands, some stuff that he does, I'm like, and he told me, I'm gonna show you, but then he moved when he was living in Arizona, but then he moved back to Florida. But yeah, there's stuff that's just too complicated or too technical for somebody, even for somebody who's been playing for a long time, such as me, right? And there are the great drummers, the monster drummers, and that's where they are. And it's not that anybody can be like that. Same thing with guitarists, right? I mean, Kerry King and Henneman, they would have never been able to play like I don't know, Glenn Tipton, for example, right? That was or Gary Holt. That they were not cut to play like that, right? They didn't have the technique to do that, or either technique or discipline, or but I don't know. They were there are skills. There are people that are particularly skilled for some instruments, and some are not. Some just put an effort, and sometimes you like their music, sometimes you don't, right? But so I wouldn't feel discouraged for not being the best drummer, or what you're saying, that you didn't like how you played, but you can always improve. And I could improve as a bassist too, but I don't have the time or the will to do it, right? But there's always room for improvement. It's practice, so you need time to practice. And something that we were not taught when we were young was practice with a metronome, because that is something that's something that you see in the videos today and in YouTube. use a metronome because otherwise your tempo is going to be, and that's what happened to me as a drummer. My tempos have been always like, but nowadays you have the click tracks and all those things more easily produced, more easily delivered to you, and you have to practice because if you go straight to the studio and you haven't practiced with the click tracks, it's going to be a nightmare. You're going to take twice or three times the hours nailing one song. But yeah, so if I were you, I would just keep going and practicing. If you want to practice drums, go ahead. Don't feel discouraged.
Yeah, I just think that I have too much time on with guitar because I've been practicing that mainly,
Mm-hmm.
and the like living condition I'm in, like I don't think I could like have a drum set within my house. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe one day, but like I'm just like putting it off for like the meantime. But
Mm-hmm.
like, do you have any final comments or like anything like you want to like say or promote?
Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. I mean, we've always had the messenger um, interactions, and we've always talked about music, in particular Morbid Angel, right? We've talked a lot about Morbid Angel, um, and yeah, it was fun. It was nice to talk to you. I remembered the composer that I was mentioning, the one of the Conan, um, which is so he's Greek, so I'm assuming in Greek it's something like Basil Polidouris, but in English I think he was called Basil Polidorus, but he was a great composer, right? He composed the music for the soundtrack for the first Conan movie, and I think there's nothing comparable to that in modern orchestra music or modern classical ish music. I think it's the best. When I listen to it, I'm like, oh man, this is just music for the gods, and it's not metal. But yeah, other than that, it was really fun. It was really nice talking to you as always. And well, anytime anytime you want to talk, you want to discuss something or rank Morbid Angel's albums or Death, maybe next time Death albums or Possessed. Um, I'm here for that.
Maybe. But
Mhm.
anyways, I'll see you then. It was a pleasure talking with you, and stay middle.
Okay, as always. Thanks, you too.
See you.